Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. In our top story, a dispute during the first meeting of the St. Thomas-St. John Board of Elections last week could reach the courts. The question revolves around the right of a board member to participate in the executive session and what circumstances can nullify that right. News 2's April Knight has an update.
The St. Thomas-St. John Board of Elections was off to a rocky start last week. During their first meeting on Wednesday, sparks flew when the board voted to ban any member who's suing the election system from participating in all of its executive sessions. According to the board, this will prevent such members from being privy to details of certain lawsuits in which they themselves are involved. But one new member, Diane McGrath, who currently has a lawsuit pending against the election system, called the decision illegal.
They completely railroaded me off any decision making where it comes to executive session with that motion that they passed.
McGrath said she's filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office, which forwarded her concerns to the Solicitor General.
They disenchanted the whole electoral process. There's no transparency right now.
McGrath was not allowed in one executive session so far in which the EAC outlined a plan of correction for the VI election system. Meanwhile, after months on leave, Deputy Election Supervisor Neferdeja Barbel has officially resigned. Shortly after the 2014 primaries, Barbel got into a confrontation with then-member Claudette Georges and with board chairman Arturo Watlington.
The St. Thomas-St. John District Board Chair became belligerent and snatched the ballots out of her hand and placed them into the ballot box, further obliterating any possibility of additional challenges. Is that a true statement of what happened?
Yes. Barbel was on leave for 5 months, including during the general and runoff elections. She failed to return to work on January 7th, when Election Supervisor Fox informed the board that Barbel said she had no intention of coming back. The board has not yet discussed Barbel's replacement. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
The Solicitor General's office will have to confer with the board attorney first. Meanwhile, as a correction to our prior item in our newscast, Carla Joseph was elected secretary of the district board, not Alicia Wells. Well, on Monday, as we reported, the 31st legislature was officially sworn in during a ceremony at Emancipation Garden. During the organizational session that followed, chairpersons were selected for each of the Senate committees. Here's more information on the leaders of the different focus areas of the 31st legislature. Kurt Vialet will be the vice chairman of the Committee on Education and Workforce Development. He will also be the vice chair of the Finance Committee. Clifford Graham is vice chair for the Housing, Public Works and Waste Management. Samuel Sanes will be vice chair for Cultural, Historic Preservation, Youth and Recreation. Jeanette Millen-Young is vice chair of Rules and Judiciary. Marvin Blyden is Vice Chairman of Energy and Environmental Protection. Novelle Francis is Vice Chair of Economic Development, Agriculture and Planning. Justin Harrigan Sr. is Vice Chair of Health, Hospital and Human Services. And Myron Jackson is Vice Chair of Veterans Affairs, while Kenneth Gittens will be the Vice Chair of Homeland Security, Public Safety and Justice. Here are some more remarks from that organizational meeting.
We came together to answer the call to service. People of the Virgin Islands, this victory belongs to you.
As I look forward to the next 2 years, I am well aware of the many challenges that we face in the territory, but I also see opportunities. Opportunities for us to make meaningful changes to how we prioritize and conduct business throughout the territory. Opportunities to improve the lives of all of the people, and opportunities to create a bright future for all who call these islands home.
Governor Mapp plans to announce additional members of his cabinet on Wednesday. As we reported, the announcement will be broadcast live on both television and radio. The new governor will make the live statement from Government House on St. Thomas. On December 30th, Governor Mapp announced 16 members of his cabinet during a live broadcast on WTJX. Last Friday, he announced 4 acting commissioners for the Departments of Health and Human Services, Property and Procurement, and Planning and Natural Resources. News 2 will keep you updated on the announcements. After a 3-day trial, a federal jury on St. Croix convicted Gregory George, 37 of St. Thomas, of 2 counts of possession of prison contraband and 1 count of promoting prison contraband. George remains incarcerated pending sentencing. No sentencing date has been set. According to the court, on June 14, 2013, while an inmate at the Golden Grove Adult Correctional Facility on St. Croix, George was found to be in possession of a cellular phone and a homemade weapon, commonly referred to as a shank. Also, District Court Judge Raymond Finch, in other news, on December 22nd, sentenced Golden Grove prisoner Avery Monsanto, 51 years of age, to 4 months in prison for possession of prison contraband. The offense stemmed from a search on April 7, 2014. Law enforcement officers discovered and seized 3 cellular telephones in a cell solely occupied by Monsanto. Cellular telephones are prohibited contraband in correctional facilities. 2 St. Croix educators were back on the job Monday after a long legal battle that was decided in their favor. On December 23rd, an independent arbitrator ruled that science coordinator Rosa White and math coordinator Juanita Bonique should be reinstated after being fired last year. News2's Erica Parsons has that story.
It's been 1 year since 2 St. Croix education coordinators have been out of work without pay.
It's wonderful to be back and to know that the collective bargaining system worked.
It's so amazing what difference a year can make, but I believe in my union.
On December 23rd, a New York arbitrator ruled that Rosa White and Juanita Bonique should be reinstated, ending a long-standing dispute between the pair and education and collective bargaining officials.
The arbitrator found that insubordination, a neglect of duty, and unprofessional conduct, there was no evidence of that, and we were made whole.
The issue stems from a transportation contract the 2 helped arrange for the MESA summer program in 2013. Education officials say the 2 didn't follow procedures to get 3 quotes and a signed contract. The arbitrator determined termination was not the appropriate penalty.
We went into mediation September 11th and 12th, and we couldn't come to any resolution with management at that time, and we went on to arbitration. And our attorney, Pedro Williams, just did a fantastic job. He was magnificent, and he wanted justice to prevail because he just knew that we were unjustly treated.
White and Bonique were suspended and then ultimately fired on March 7th after an arbitrator with the Public Employee Relations Board upheld those suspensions. A lengthy process followed with mediation, court hearings, and more arbitration. White and Bonique have been instrumental in the science and math areas, coordinating department fairs, programs, and competitions for years.
The suffering that we went through was uncalled for, and the type of work we do here in this district, together with 60+ years of service, speaks for itself.
The 2 say Board of Education officials were behind them, but it was also the community's support that kept them going. One colleague says it's good to have them back.
We're not just professionals, we're also friends. And when you see friends suffering, you want to do what you can to help. We're glad it's resolved. It's for the best for the children. I think we'll be okay. We're glad they're back. We need them back.
I really love the children of the Virgin Islands, and just to be back for them, I'm glad to be back.
The children suffered so much. There's so much lost for the math and science program, and we have to regain that, and we're coming with some great ideas and hoping to bring it back.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
Best wishes to White and Bonique. Turn our attention overseas. Congressional leaders sat down with President Obama on one side, promising legislation he's threatening to veto, sitting between the Republican leaders of the House and Senate. President Obama said he can work with them, finding common ground on urgent issues like cybersecurity. The president is proposing a bill to protect consumer data, along with additional tools for law enforcement to go after hackers. But the legislation already moving through the new Republican-controlled Congress is at odds with the White House agenda. Keeping our eye on the economy, the official Twitter feed for U.S. Central Command is back online following a case of cyber vandalism. The command's Twitter and YouTube account were temporarily suspended yesterday after hackers claiming to have ties to the Islamic State took control of the sites, posting threatening messages. Defense officials maintain no classified information was obtained and no military networks were compromised. Here's the New York Stock Exchange with our Stock Market Watch. Dow, Nasdaq, S&P all down. The Dow 27, Nasdaq 3, S&P 5. Coming up on News 2, over 200 people signed up, and it's not too late. The Zumba party continues. A challenge is on for 17 weeks, and the grand prize is round-trip airfare and hotel to Dominican Republic. We'll have highlights from the Zumba Glow Party and Health Fair that was held over the weekend. St. Croix East End was without power for about 1 hour on Monday morning. A fire on a pole in Hospital Street in Christiansted led to the power outage, and WAP officials said that was the reason that feeder number 2 went out. The East End lost power around 9:15 a.m., but service was restored to most of the customers by 10:30 a.m. Officials have not yet determined what caused the fire. Well, as we reported, Vitima continues Ebola response training for first responders. Vitima training coordinator Irvin Mason said the turnout is so good they will have to schedule more in the near future. He said on Monday there were about 50 participants, and today there were about 60. First responders are receiving hands-on training on using the appropriate level of personal protective equipment and performing decontamination procedures when faced with a potential Ebola case. Instructors from FEMA's Center for Domestic Preparedness at Anniston, Alabama are conducting the training. The one-day training continues on Thursday and Friday, January 15th and 16th at the Juan Louis Hospital Cardiac Center on St. Croix from 8 a.m. to 5. The Lieutenant Governor's office will observe shorter hours this week so the staff can attend orientation. On Tuesday, St. John office will be closed from 1 to 5 p.m. The St. Thomas cashier's office will close at 1 p.m. and the entire office will close at 2:30 p.m. On Thursday, the St. Croix cashier's office will close at 1 p.m. while the entire office closes at 2:30. The Lieutenant Governor offices will resume regular business hours on Wednesday and Friday. Well, St. Croix got an unexpected visitor Tuesday morning. The Royal Caribbean Navigator of the Seas cruise ship came calling with nearly 4,000 passengers and more than 1,000 crew members. Port Authority Executive Director Carlton Dow, in a statement, said the visit is great news for St. Croix, the tourist vendors, tour operators, restaurants, and shops. Port Authority officials were notified of the change Tuesday morning, but no reason was given for the change in itinerary. In preparation for Martin Luther King Day, Clean Sweep Frederiksted is asking for the community to make it a day on, not a day off. So mark this on your calendar from 7:30 to 11:30 on Monday morning. The group is taking volunteers to King Street on St. Croix for a big cleanup effort. They're urging volunteers to bring their shovels, weed whackers, rakes, and brooms and help transform King Street into a majestic community thoroughfare. For more information, you can give them a call. Well, many stuck to that New Year's resolution, at least for the first few weeks of the year, to get fit. Zumba classes begin tonight and will run for 17 weeks. There is a Zumba challenge, and the grand prize is a round-trip airfare and hotel to Dominican Republic. Zumba instructor Diane Harris kept everyone energized and well-hydrated at Crown Bay Center on St. Thomas for the free Zumba exercise program Glow Party and Health Fair that was held on Saturday. Zumba classes will be held every Tuesday through May 5th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Crown Bay Center. The program wraps up on Saturday, May 9th with a party featuring a live Latin band. Well, be sure to stick around. Your News2 AccuWeather forecast comes your way next.